Hi. I've long since thought that we need to be creating our own systems, creating our own machines, creating our own technologies. Of course, as not just a country, but as a continent, the continent of Africa, we are quite behind, and there's a lot of catching up that we need to do. And if we were to try and be sovereign in terms of our technology, in terms of our facilities and our infrastructure, we would find ourselves trailing behind, and that sucks for now. But with all the knowledge we have and all the ingenuity that we have, if we invest in people's minds, we invest in people's creativity, we invest in ourselves, as painful as it'll be in the beginning, if we do that, we allow so much room for growth, we allow so much room for endless possibilities. We sort of have the ideas of what the future can be like. We can reimagine it. We can imagine it as it is imagined by others and then try to join the race and try to catch up. Unfortunately, we just have to catch up. Of course, it's going to be difficult. Try to create your own platforms. But if you think about it, with over a billion people, very few of them, very few of us have access to internet. Very few have access to electricity. Very few have access to infrastructure, and very few have access to knowledge. But if we enforce a culture of self-support, we support each other, we enforce a culture of, come on now, let me finish the video. Hang in there, hang in there, come on. Thank you. Just a couple of minutes. If we enforce a culture of us being patriotic, we raise a future generation of future leaders who are going to be patriotic and are going to do everything that they can, everything that they can think of, everything that they can imagine to help improve and help better the lives of other Africans. We really can do that. We have all the resources, we have all the human resources, we have all the power to do that. All that's missing is for us to have the will and the bravery, the courage to say, we're not going to hear from anyone else anymore. We're not going to wait for the Western world to come and tell us what to do. We're not going to wait for the Eastern world to come and give us handouts. We are going to start over and do these things ourselves and suffer through the growing pains, suffer through having to be independent, having to stand on our own 2 feet, if we can say a country or a continent is standing on its own 2 feet, having to break down the barriers that exist that have been created over millennia, having to break down all the traditions, having to uneducate, decolonize our minds and re-educate ourselves and re-educate each other in new novel ways that usher us into a new future, that usher us into a new generation. There's a lot of things that we need to rethink. There's a lot of things that we need to do differently. It's gonna suck for us to have to give up a lot of our conveniences, a lot of our luxuries. Imagine if we say we're now starting a new platform that is going to go against the likes of a YouTube. We're going to go build a new platform that is going to go against the likes of everything that the ABC, not ABC, Alphabet company owns. So that's the Google with its Gmail, its YouTube, its everything that's connected to that. Not iOS, but the OS, the operating system, Android. It's going to be very difficult. I mean, look at what China is doing with Huawei and their Harmony OS. It might be difficult for us to catch up here and everywhere around the world, but within China itself, they're doing it. And one thing that is allowing them to do it is the numbers, the sheer number of people that they have in the country. And that is something that we can look at and say, hey, we have those numbers in this continent. If we can start building infrastructure to cater for us, to cater for us culturally, to cater for us in terms of the type of human beings that we are, to cater for us in terms of the needs that we have, the resources that we have, the landscape, everything that we have. If we start now creating systems that are going to work well with everything with which we have been blessed, we now start building a life in which we are at an advantage. Of course, it's going to start in a difficult way because a lot of the technology, if not all of it, a lot of the machinery, um, knowledge, access, everything right now is controlled and is based on international standards. But if we now sit down and say, hey, we can actually do these things, we actually have the numbers to do these things, we just have to create opportunities for most people, as many people as possible within the African continent, to take part in the economy, and not just the economy of any particular country, but the economy of the entire continent. The more people are involved in the in the economy of the continent, the more that we can build sustainable infrastructure, the more that we can build sustainable platforms, the more that we can, the more likely it is for us to have a succeeds. Social media platforms that are created by us, for us, all the revenue that is generated through there circulates within or around the continent. And these are some of the things that we need to be thinking about. These are some of the things that the African Union needs to be thinking about, that hey, being connected to the whole world is amazing. That's great. But why can't we also think about being independent, standing on our own, having these own platforms, not being at the mercy of someone else who can decide, I'm going to flip the switch. If you think about it, that's what America did to China. They were like, yeah, no, we're flipping the switch on you guys. You cannot use Google services anymore. And Huawei couldn't do that anymore. Imagine if people flip the switch on us, on any of us. It doesn't even have to be the collective. The same way they flipped the switch on Zimbabwe, and we allowed that to happen, and things like that are not supposed to be allowed. We are not supposed to allow other people to come in and bully and mistreat our family. We are supposed to say, no, it's fine, you guys can flip the switch if you want, it's cool, but we've got them. These are our brothers, these are our sisters, we've got their backs, we're going to work along with them, we're going to continue buying from them, we're going to continue selling to them, we're going to continue moving around, doing all sorts of business with and around them. We're going to continue to see them as equals. But the more that we continue to be reliant on international products, the more that we continue to be reliant on international infrastructure, the more that we continue to be reliant on international platforms, the more we leave ourselves at the mercy of incumbents that just want to rape us and take us for everything that we've got. And until we actually summon up the kahunas to actually say, we're stopping it here, we're cutting it off here. It's going to be painful at first, it's going to be hard, but we're going to get there. We're going to force, we're going to fight, and we're going to get to a point where we're able to rely on ourselves and we don't have to cry for anyone or cry to anyone for any sort of help. We now stand and look at the next person, look at the next country, look at the next continent at equal footing and say, do you want something from us? Cool, you can have this. This is what we want from you. Okay, now can we have that? And we're now trading, talking as equal parties. But it really does depend on us being sovereign in as many ways as possible. We really need to start creating our own platforms, our own technologies, our own vehicles, our own type of infrastructure, our own cultures. 100 years from now, there's going to be 100-year-old buildings. What are they going to look like? What does an African building look like? What does a South African building look like? What does a Nigerian building look like? What does a Kenyan building look like? These are sort of questions we need to be asking ourselves, saying, what are we building for the future? And build in small increments, but with a long-term goal. Thank you very much.